Namaste. Welcome to the 12th session of Patanjali Yoga Sutra. We are coming towards the end of chapter 2. And as always, I'll start with summarizing, just recapping what we have done so far so that a continuity is maintained. So Patanjali defines yoga as Chitta Vritti Nirodha. What it means is that our consciousness is pure awareness. It has got no content other than itself. But we don't experience it like that. We experience it as our thought, feeling, emotion superimposed on that consciousness. So we experience consciousness as our thoughts, as our feelings, as our emotions. And these is what he calls vrittis. And yoga is defined as stoppage of vrittis. When the vritti stops, then you experience the pureness of your consciousness, the stillness of your consciousness. So that is yoga. And he says there are 5 kinds of modifications. They are right knowledge, wrong knowledge, imaginary knowledge, no knowledge as in deep sleep, and past knowledge as in smriti or memory. And the method to stop vritti is abhyas and vairag. Abhyas is regular practice of yoga, and vairagya is dispassion or non-attachment to things of the world. And once vrittis are reduced, what he calls samadhi prajna or samapati, which basically means a meditative state develops. And once the meditative state develops, that can be harnessed towards dhyan, which is meditation, and samadhi. And samadhi has 4 stages. In the initial stages, the mind is still working. So you're focusing on an object. The object could be a mantra or a om. And your mind is thinking about om. So that's the first stage of samadhi. You're focusing on only om. You're focusing nothing else, but the mind is still working. Then that matures into observation. That means that the thinking stops and your consciousness is directly just observing the object, om, in this example. And then observation matures into reflection. That means even the act of observation stops and om is reflecting in your consciousness as it is. And finally, that sense that, I am the consciousness on which things are reflecting, even that I am goes. So it is just om, so which is samadhi. So you're fully absorbed in that consciousness. And when your karmas are burnt, then it becomes what is called nirbit samadhi, which is when you attain moksha and when your rebirth, the cycle of birth and death stops. Okay. So this was in the first chapter. In the second chapter, Sadhana Pada, Patanjali talks about Kriya Yoga. So Samadhi is for advanced yogis. Advanced yogis can go into a meditative state and experience Samadhi. But for the middling yogis, he suggests what is called Kriya Yoga, which has got 3 things. One is tapas or tapa, which is basically the continued practice of yoga. And this practice, what it does, it kind of brings down your desires and ego identification, are both brought down. And when the desires and ego identification is brought down, your mind is brought to peace. Your mind is brought to peace. Sorry, I'll take this call. Ramesh, I'm going to send you the link. Rajiv, I will just take a minute. Somebody else wants to join. I'm sending the link to that person. Just give me a moment. Just give me one moment. I'm sending this link to a person. I'm sorry for this interruption, but since the link was changed and Ramesh wasn't wanting to join, so I had to just stop and give him the link. Okay. So first is tapas. Tapas is the practice of yoga. It brings down, the desire and ego, and this mind is brought to peace. And your pranic energy, your spiritual energy is now contained within, because it's not going out chasing desires. All right, so it's within, and with that energy you can observe, and the mind is peaceful, so you can observe the vrittis, you can observe the mechanism of vrittis, you can observe how desires are arising in you, you can observe how ego identification are arising in you, and this is called swadhyaya, or self-study. And it basically, what happens is that with tapas, you develop the ability to just observe, sakshi bhav, which is swadhyaya, right? And then this develops into what is called ishwar pranidhana, which is the mind made quiet by tapas and trained to observe, trained to become an observer, trained to become a sakshi. It can get absorbed in the inner awareness. It can start looking at the movement of inner awareness, and that is Ishvara, or that is the Devi, that is the Mool Prakriti. So Ishvara is nothing but inner awareness. So this process of Kriya Yoga, Tapas, Swadhyaya, and Ishvara Pranidhana, then advances the yogi towards Samadhi. So then we also saw what is the root of suffering. Suffering is the Pancha Kleshas, or the 5 human afflictions. And first affliction is avidya, which means you don't have the awareness that you are Atman. You have a false awareness that you are this body and mind, right? So this is avidya. It is the first affliction. It's a root affliction. And because you see yourself as body and mind, asmita, or the I-ness, the ego identification develops. So avidya leads to asmita. And because you identify with your body and mind, you chase after the pleasures of the world to become happy, and you avoid the pains in the world to stop unhappiness. So which is called raga and dvesha. Raga is chasing pleasures and dvesha is avoiding pain, right? And also it leads to abhinivesha. Abhinivesha is fear of death, or clinging to life. Since you are identifying with body and mind, you cling to it. You don't want the body and mind to go away. So these are the 5 afflictions: avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, and abhinivesha. And this is the root of human suffering. Once, through the practice of yoga, if you resolve these 5 afflictions, then you're free from suffering, right? And kleshas create karma, because these kleshas, avidya, asmita, rag, dvesh, abhinivesh, will lead you to action, which will create more desires and more action. And every time you act on a desire, there's an imprint or a samskara in your psyche, which gives you your karma. And the karma will trap you in the cycle of birth and death and rebirth. So kleshas create karmas, karmas create experiences, and experiences perpetuate kleshas. So it's a cycle, it's a vicious cycle. Klesha karma cycle is a vicious cycle. Then he said that he distinguished what is drishya and drishta. So everything which you can see, everything which you can perceive with your senses, you see, feel, hear, everything which you can do that. Everything you can think about with your mental activity is called drishya, or it's a scene. It is prakriti, right? It's matter, right? But the seer is Atman. It's pure consciousness, right? And the very important thing he says that the matter exists, or Prakriti exists for that pure consciousness. Prakriti exists for Purusha. So pure consciousness is referred to as Purusha in yoga. Prakriti is nature or matter uh, uh, in yoga. So Prakriti exists for the Purusha so that Purusha can go through experiences and realize that he or she is pure Purusha and Prakriti is not him or her. Okay. And that is when spiritual uh, light dawns. And this is, this comes through the practice of yoga. So now, having done that, as always, I'll just share my screen and I will share the two shlokas. This time we are covering only two shlokas. And one second. Yeah, 1 second. I'll try to do it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the first shloka says, by the practice of yoga, impurities are destroyed and spiritual knowledge arises, which culminates into the awareness of Atman, awareness of pure consciousness, awareness of reality. So it says, when you practice the 8 limbs of yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, your impurities are destroyed. I'll define all this as we go along. And this results in spiritual knowledge, which culminates into samadhi, awareness of reality. And the 8 limbs of yoga, which is the famous Patanjali Ashtanga Yoga, are yama, which is self-restraint, niyama, which is rules of behavior, and asana, niyama, then asana, we are all aware of this, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. So normally when we use the English language, samadhi, it's dharana, dhyana, samadhi is clubbed as meditation, but there are actually steps in it. Actually, if you take pratyahara also is the bridge between external yoga and internal yoga. So pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi is the division of meditation. Okay, so we will now go into it. And top share of screen. Yes, we are back. So the first shloka we will cover today is, it says, by the practicing the 8 limbs of yoga, impurities are destroyed and there arises spiritual illumination, which develops into the awareness of reality. You get an awareness of pure consciousness. So I just covered that the distortions in our thinking arises from kleshas, and the kleshas, as we saw, are avidya, asmita, rag, dvesh, abhinivesh. And these kleshas create a barrier to experiencing reality as it is. These kleshas create vrittis, remember, yogasya, chitta vritti nirodha. These create vrittis, and the vrittis kind of veil the pure consciousness from our experience, right? Now, this pure consciousness cannot be touched by thinking. It's very simple. Why cannot we reach it through thought? Because thought is a vritti. And to reach it, you have to stop the vrittis. So thinking also has to stop. And that's why you saw in when I talked about samadhi, the steps are first thinking, then sakshi, then reflection, and then absorption. All right. So the steps were there. So it cannot be done by thinking. It is beyond words, beyond concepts. So people, the yogis, enlightened people who experienced it, they find it very difficult to express that experience. Whatever way they express it, it is imperfect because it is beyond words, right? And the only way to touch it is by actually experiencing it through a much deeper awareness, through a spiritual illumination which comes from yoga. When you do yoga, impurities are gradually destroyed and illumination increases, right? So now this is the thing. What we are seeking is within us. Now, this is a very radical knowledge, and this needs to be understood absolutely clearly. We normally search for truth outside of us. We'll go to a temple, we'll do a ritual, we'll chant a mantra, we'll visit whatever, we'll be all looking outside for God. Now, all this temple visit, puja part, mandir, etc., are very good for the initial stages of purification, but the Shastra itself warned, you will not find God there. You'll not find the truth there. You'll not find your Atman there. If this, you have to at some point reach a stage where that those rituals, etc., have reached their purpose, and now you are going within with yoga. So God is within. The truth is within us. We are all divine, and this is which bears understanding. This is what we have to understand, that the God is within, and at some point we have to start looking within. All the external things about temple, etc., may give us some peace, may purify us also, may lead us towards a good path, may take us away from worldly desires towards a more godly path, which is very good. But if people who get stuck there, they will never reach God, because God is within. And the only way to go within is with yoga. Okay. The second thing is, yoga does not create purity. Purity is our essential nature. We saw that our essential nature is pure awareness. Okay. So that purity, pure awareness is our essential nature. And that our essential nature is veiled by impurities. And what is impurity? Don't think of impurity as pap and all that. It is basically when you think of yourself as what you are not, is impurity. So when you think of yourself as body, mind, ego, that is impurity. Okay. Now, here is, because the truths are so subtle that there is a lot of reason for misunderstanding. Now, Patanjali is not saying that your body, mind, and ego are impure in the common sense of the word. He is not saying that. Prakriti is pure. Purusha is pure. But when we mix the two, when the Purusha gets identified with Prakriti, that is when you get impurity. So, to give a common example, milk is pure, water is pure. So you mix milk and water, two pure things, but what you get is impurity. So it's never think that your body is impure. This is a trap. Body se ghin karo, ye kharab hai. Aisa kuch nahi hai. Body is pure, mind is pure, ego is pure. It is nature. It is a manifestation of that same God. So how can it be impure? But identifying with that is where the impurity comes. And actually, what happens is, when you identify with the body reacts. It intrudes upon us as pain. If you leave the body alone, body will behave itself. We'll see it when we go into it. If you leave the body alone, it will behave itself. It will not trouble you. But when you say, I am the body, then all the pain, everything comes. Then the body will say, ha, you think you're very good. You think I am you. So here, feel it. Feel this pain. Feel this. Feel this. So the body reacts. But if you leave it alone, then body will be very well behaved. So the thing is that we have in mundane life, we naturally identify with our ego. We identify with I am Atul, I am Ramesh. You know, you identify with that. You identify with your thoughts, identify with your likes, with your dislikes, with your fears, with your joys, with your sorrows. You identify with your emotions, right? So, and these are constantly changing. Your thoughts are changing, your emotions are changing, constantly changing. So there is no center. There's no center within you. The center is not functioning. So whatever is coming up, that you become. So you're in a constant state of chitta vritti, right? You're a constant state of the consciousness modifying itself into your thoughts, emotions, feelings, etc. Okay. There is no one center. It's the whole thing within you is a crowd, it's a chaos, right? The body is interfering with the soul. There's a false perception, that the body is the soul. But with yoga, this gradually stops. This stops, and you discover your center, which is this pure awareness. You become an observer. You become Sakshi. This happens guaranteed if you practice yoga within, if you're very good within 6 months, if not within a year, you will experience this. You will 100% experience this, that you're observing your body, you're observing your thoughts, you're observing your mind. And your experience which you're getting is, I am not my body, I'm not my mind. This will 100% happen. And that is when clarity emerges. And, that is when you start touching the inner awareness. You start touching reality. So that is when, when your own mind is not, veiling the light, spiritual enlightenment, spiritual light, illumination begins to happen. And you get a sense of, that your pure consciousness is reality. Now, what I'll cover now is Ashtanga Yoga. In today's talk, I will just give a overview of Ashtanga Yoga. In the next maybe one or two talks, we'll go into details of asana, pranayama, etc. But right now, I'll give you an overview, and you will see how scientific it is, how step by step it is. We just know of Ashtanga Yoga as yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. But there's a logic to it. And there's one more reason why it is very important to understand very basically the science behind Ashtanga Yoga, because the yoga which we know today has been completely, the understanding of yoga is completely spoiled ever since we gave yoga to the West, ever since we were colonized. It is completely destroyed. When I go, and even to my Indian friends, when I go and tell them that I have a PhD in yoga, they are flummoxed. PhD in yoga means you have learned to do different asanas. Is that, what they can't comprehend, you can do a PhD in yoga, because they connect yoga with asanas, right? And in the hands of Western researchers, it has been completely deconstructed. So it has been deconstructed into a physical exercise, into a breathing exercise, into mindful. This is buzzword now, mindfulness, which they have borrowed from transcendental meditation of Mahesh Yogi and from Buddhism, and this and their wellness benefits. Your mental health improves, your physical health improves. The entire integrity of yoga, the wholeness of yoga, the divinity of yoga is lost. So my yoga instructor, I have a young fellow who comes, and it's not that I need an instructor, but it's good that somebody is instructing you so that you follow a discipline. He teaches some foreigners. So I tell him, you must start the yoga with the yoga prayer. Or you must start yoga with Mrityunjay mantra or Gayatri mantra. Why? because yoga is divine. You're getting in touch with your divinity. And unless you have that bhav, then yoga, you might as well go to the gym. Might as well go running in Borivali National Park. What's the point of doing yoga? Yoga is divine. The purpose of yoga is to attain moksha. The purpose of yoga is to attain moksha. Yes, in the process, you will be blessed with good health. You'll be blessed with a yogic body. You'll be blessed with a calm mind. Very good. By all means, enjoy all that. But that is not the purpose of yoga. Yoga is a divine science. All right. So that is why it is very important for all of us to understand what is really Ashtanga Yoga, so that you can spread the message to others. Today, even in India, yoga has become exercise. Okay. So it's very, very important that we understand this. Yoga is meditation. Yama and niyama are meditation in your daily action. Asana is meditation in movement. Pranayama is meditation in breathing. It's not that it's some physical exercise which leads to meditation somewhere else. Everything is meditation. So even when you do asana, your mind is completely focused on the body movement. When you reach the asana, the mind is completely focused on the sensations in the body. Right? So without awareness, you're not doing yoga. So it's very important to know that yoga is a divine science. And whenever we do yoga, we start with a mantra. Sometimes Gayatri mantra, sometimes Mrityunjay mantra, sometimes just yoga prayer. Okay, sometimes a Shanti mantra, and you end with a prayer. So without that, you will not have that bhav. You not have that bhav, a surrender, the bhav of surrender to the divine. You won't have. And the purpose of yoga is moksha. All right. Now about these 8 limbs of yoga, yama, niyama, we'll go into it. It is both limbs and steps. It's both. So always remember, this whole thing is very integral. It's one whole. It's one organic whole. It's not, and it is also steps. At least for the beginner, it is steps. All right. So why is it a whole? So let's look at asana, pranayama, and so your body, your breathing, and your thoughts are linked. So suppose you're angry, your breathing goes, your short breathing, your body has become tense. See, there's a linkage, right? And if you want to control anger, you can control by any of these means, in the sense that you can consciously just relax your body, your breathing will normalize, and your anger will dissipate. Or you can just take a few deep breaths and let the anger subside, and your body will become less tense and your breathing will be okay. Or this Hatha Yoga, they say everything through breathing. You just control your breathing and your anger will go away, right? So it is interlinked. So therefore, it is completely organic whole, right? And there are steps also. And this is important to understand, that there are steps. So yama means, or yam as it's called, yam means self-restraint. Yam is an inner attitude. Ahimsa is an inner attitude, right? Satya, the desire to speak the truth, is an inner attitude, right? We'll go into details in another session, but I just want to give you an overview. So yama is basically self-restraint. Is the first step. In our ancient Gurukula system, the entire, the need, the foundation of education was yama. We developed in the Gurukula system, they taught the children to have self-restraint, self-confidence, And the tool to do that was yama, right? In the English language, self-restraint, appears to be suppressing and repressing. And thanks to Mr. Sigmund Freud, these are very ugly, ugly words. Suppression, repression is a very ugly word, right? However, in yoga, it is very different. Now, what happens is that our impulses, our likes and dislikes are ruling over us. Okay, so take a student. I have to study, but I don't want to study. I want to go out and play. Our likes and dislikes are ruling over us, right? We have no direction of our own. So in Bhagavad Gita, in the scene where Arjuna is on the chariot and Krishna is the charioteer, there are 5 horses, and Krishna is holding the reins. The 5 horses signify the 5 senses: sight, smell, hearing, taste, feel, touch. So the 5 senses are five horses. If you don't control the reins, the 5 horses will go in whatever direction they want, and you will come to ruin. And think about it in your own life. We are all driven by our own impulses. We are all driven by likes and dislikes. Our whole life is to get what we like and to avoid what we dislike. This defines our life. This is the whole purpose of life. And we have no control. We have no control over our inner energy getting dissipated, going out with our impulses, right? Self-restraint simply means to simplify your life and to give it the direction that you want. This is the first step of it. We'll go into what what yamas are. That we'll go do in the next session. But basically, it is to be able to restrain yourself so that you are in control of your impulses rather than the impulses being in control over you. And this is the first step of yoga, right? Self-restraint. And how do you get self-restraint? Then, without this self-restraint, without this inner attitude, without the developing self-restraint, the next step, which is niyama, is not possible. Niyama are observances, right? So it's a life of discipline. It's a life of regularity, right? And without self-restraint, how can you be regular and disciplined? You can't be, because your impulses are pulling you. The 5 horses are going everywhere, right? So without self-restraint, this regularity is not possible. So therefore, without yama, niyama is not possible. And again, in today's world, with the Western thinking of consumerism and hedonism, mauj karo, masti karo, everything is there for your enjoyment. You feel like you can buy all kinds of games and food and packaged foods and all kinds. You can watch anything on TV, Netflix, consumerism, right? So this may sound like slavery, this restraint and this discipline may sound like slavery, right? But again, the purpose of yama and niyama is to make you the master of your life and not your impulses, not your likes and dislikes. You are the master. This has to be done. This is what I want to do. And whether I like it or I don't like it, I'm going to do it. Can you imagine what will happen to your life if you just imbibe yama and niyama? In Bhagavad Gita, it's called dhritti. That means you're driven by a inner purpose. And whether somebody criticizes you, somebody praises you, it doesn't matter. Your inner purpose is driving you. Dhritti. Forbearance. You can forbear criticism. You can forbear pain. anything, but you will do what you have to do. Yama, niyama are very, very, very key, very important. This is the beginning. So this is bringing yoga into your daily life, right? You can live with restraint, and restraint builds personality. It builds character, and with that restraint, you can have discipline and regularity in your life, right? And think about it. I'll come to this now. The third one is asana. Without restraint and regularity, asana is not possible. What is asana? Asana is the ability to stay still in a posture. Asana is the ability to sit still. The body will revolt. If you don't have discipline and self-restraint, the body is going to revolt. It will alert you with pain. My back is paining. It'll restless. You're sitting down, but you're thinking of going somewhere else, right? It's restless. And why is this so? Because you have never given it rest. It's always, you have pushed it. It is you never disciplined the body. And therefore it will not listen to you. You're making it's like asking a child. Child does it naturally. I'm just taking as an example. You tell a small child, 4 or 5-year-old child, to sit still, that he or she cannot sit still. It's not in its nature. So similarly, the body, you have not trained the body to sit still. It has become its own master. It sleeps when it wants. It wakes up when it wants. It eats when it wants. And people with young children, adolescent children, will understand this. Right now, I'm taking care of 2 young boys, not my children, friends' children, and all that. What has happened to the youth? I'm of at least the elite. I'm not talking about the poor people; they have their own compulsions. But at least the elite youth, these children, if you don't wake them up in the morning, they'll wake up at 3. 19 and 20-year-old. They'll wake up at 3. They'll have their first meal at 6. Then they won't feel hungry till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. They're ordering from Swiggy, 1 o'clock. And this is, I believe, is very common amongst college kids today. I mean, what has happened? So, asana will come naturally to a person who has self-restraint and regularity. Because then when you sit down, sit. The body knows that you are disciplined. It knows that it cannot whine. It knows that it cannot rule you because you won't listen to it. So again, is this suppression? We have this sense that freedom means just like letting it all hang out. I mean, do whatever you want. That's not freedom. Here, body is ruling you. Your impulses are ruling you. That's why yama niyama. Your body is ruling you. I will eat when I want to eat. I will sleep when I want to sleep. Is that freedom? You are the slave. So, with yama and niyama, when you tell the body to sit, you have developed the discipline, the body will sit. Even the pain comes, pain is there. It doesn't bother you. All right? The body, remember, the body doesn't know how to rest because you haven't given it rest. You become restless. And actually, the word asana means rest. And if you can just do that, just sit still, the rest of yoga will just flow. Yoga will bless you. If you can just sit still, all the yoga will come to you. And this leads us to pranayama. It's the bridge, pranayama, you're regulating your breath, is the bridge between the body and the mind. We saw that like when you're angry, your breath is like fluctuating, right? Your body is tense, right? So this breath is the bridge between the body and mind. If you control the breath, you can control the mind, right? We gain power over the mind. And basically, pranayama is to discover your own rhythm. All of us have different rhythm. All of us have a different rhythm. When you notice it, when you're walking, suppose you're walking with your husband or wife, you're just walking, you find that there's a certain pace in which you are comfortable and certain pace in which your husband or wife is comfortable. So you have we all have our own rhythm. Pranayama is finding your own rhythm and then, living that rhythm. Breathe in, breathe out in that rhythm, right? And if you discover it, then, your whole life will change. If you discover that rhythm, your whole life will change. You'll become calm, quiet, unruffled. You just observe everything, right? It's one of the greatest discoveries of our rishis. Absolutely, the greatest discovery is pranayama. And the next step, without pranayama, pratyahara is not possible. What is pratyahara? Pratyahara is translated as controlling your senses, right? It is controlling your mind. So pranayama is controlling your mind by breathing, while pratyahara is controlling your mind by controlling your senses, right? But it is basically the ability to go within and without seamlessly. Now I'm going to talk about J. Krishnamurti. J. Krishnamurti was a great philosopher, and he set up schools. My daughter went to a school which he founded. It's called Rishi Valley School in Andhra Pradesh. It's a boarding school. So his thought was that children have to be taught to look at the external world and simultaneously go within. And what he was saying is, when you look at the external world, you're being analytical. All right? You're analyzing things. Your logic is the logical mind is being sharpened, right? But if you don't go within, you have no sensitivity. Your sensitivity lies within. Your peace, quiet, compassion, love, all lie within. And if you're not in touch with that, if you're only externally oriented, you're only logical, and you are destructive. He said, we are creating destructive human beings, and it's visible. He says, it's a world gone mad. There's war, and there's greed. It's absolutely mad world. And this is because we have not taught ourselves to get in touch with our own compassion and humanity, which lies within us. So pratyahara is the ability to go without and within, to analyze something and then go within and get in touch with sensitivity. And with that analysis and sensitivity together, you can take very good decisions in your life. The reverse is also not good, that if you're only within and you're not analytical, you're just sensitive, then you will create psychotic problems for yourself. If you're just too much within, then you create some madness for yourself. So this ability to go in and out very seamlessly is pratyahara. Like when I'm talking, I'm also aware of my breathing and what's going on within me. I'm in a quiet state. All right. So the ability to go within and without is pratyahara. And pratyahara, without pratyahara, you cannot do dharana. Now, what is dharana? Dharana is to single pointed concentration is dharana. Means that I am sitting down, I have been prepared by yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara. I am able to sit down and concentrate on only one object. I'm concentrating on my breath going in and coming out. I'm concentrating on Om, a mental image of Om, or a sound, a mental sound of Om, right? And I'm concentrating on that, and all the other thoughts excluded. My mind has been trained to focus on only one thing. That is dharana. And dharana develops from all the previous steps. Yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara will lead to dharana. After dharana, the other two steps you cannot practice. Dharana has to flower into dhyana. So in dhyana, what happens in dharana, your mind is, you're training your mind to concentrate only on your breath or om, right? Now, when it flowers in dhyana, then that flow of consciousness towards that object, om or breath or what, becomes absolutely natural. It is as if I am not breathing. Breath is happening. I am not breathing. Okay. And so this is a flowering. This is not something you can do consciously. The intense dharana will suddenly break a barrier and you are into dhyan. Dhyan is, I'm not breathing. My body is breathing. I'm not walking. My legs are walking. You are in a dhyan state. You're only aware of your consciousness, like flowing. It's like pouring oil. Oil is flowing, pouring, absolutely smoothly, no jerks, nothing. All right. So that is what that is dhyan, right? And dhyan will mature into samadhi. So in samadhi, the ego disappears and only that consciousness is there. There's no object in their consciousness. There's no ego. There's no om. There is no breath. There's nothing. There's just that consciousness. That is samadhi, right? And that is when you touch God. That is when you touch, moksha. So you can see that this yoga is very scientific, without without self-restraint. You cannot have regularity and discipline. Without regular discipline, you cannot have control over your body. So it is basically what yoga is doing, is giving you control over every aspect of your life. Right? So yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. All right. So in the practice of yoga, yama, niyama is something you can practice. And in the next session, I'll talk about yama and niyama in more detail. And initially, when people start yoga, you have to start with asana, because the body is very stiff and restless. So unless you can first get the body in a certain shape, you can't start on pranayama, right? Pratyahara, things like, shavasana, yoga nidra, these are pratyahara practices where your senses are getting withdrawn and you are looking within. Nada anusandhana, those are all pratyahara techniques. And dharana is, once you master all this, dharana will be very easy. You can just concentrate on one thing, one task at a time, right? And dharana will mature into dhyana and samadhi. So this is the whole Ashtanga yoga. And please, when you talk to other people, tell them this is yoga. Yoga is divine. It's not some physical exercise and some breathing and not mindfulness, all these buzzwords and all that. It is a very, very divine science. It is you start yoga with a surrender. When you do Surya Namaskar, you do a mantra to the Surya Bhagavan, right? And on each of the 12 poses of Surya Namaskar, you take the name of one God. Om Suryaye Namaha, Om Ravaye Namaha, Om Mitraye Namaha, Om Pushne Namaha, Om Dhanve Namaha. So you take each pose, you say a mantra. So it's a surrender to the sun god. So yoga is a very divine thing, and you must do it with a divine bhav, must do it with full awareness, and must do it with a quiet mind. Okay, any questions? I'm happy to take it.